echoes of silence. The unheard distance. Every Sunday morning, Layla wandered through the bustling farmers' market in downtown Ashford. The air hummed with chatter, laughter, and the tang of fresh herbs. She, a freelance journalist, found these walks soothing, a balm for the hurried thoughts always racing through her mind. Yet today, amid the familiar stalls of apples and artichokes, her breath felt shallow, her heartbeat loud. Across town, in a corner office of Sterling and Boyd Consulting, sat her husband, Marcus. A rising star in the firm, he excelled at closing deals and crafting presentations that dazzled clients. His phone buzzed incessantly: emails, calls, Slack messages. Every ping was a thrill, a new victory to celebrate. Yet despite the adrenaline, something gnawed at him, a quietness at home he couldn't name, a space between him and Layla that kept growing. They shared a home, a bed, and even weekend breakfasts, 2 sweet rolls, a pot of coffee, and polite conversation. But beneath the surface, their words ricocheted like stones skipping across water, always touching the top layer without ever sinking in. Layla often tried to tell Marcus about her day, how she'd interviewed a local artist whose work captured the hidden lives of refugees. She described the artist's trembling hands, the quiet burst of color on the canvas, and the way his eyes filled with both sadness and hope. Marcus, ever polite, would nod, check his watch, or say, "That's impressive, did you get the quotes you needed?" His mind already leaping to his next meeting, his next priority. Marcus, in turn, poured out stories of boardrooms and bullet points, of budgets and brain teasers. Layla would listen dutifully, offering suggestions: maybe you could try a different slide design, or why not open with a client testimonial? Her words, well-intentioned, landed on his ears like raindrops on concrete, heard, but shed immediately. Neither realized how far apart they drifted until one ordinary Tuesday evening. 2 cracks in the fabric. That Tuesday, Layla returned home with the weight of a deadline pressing against her temples. She found Marcus hunched over his laptop at the kitchen island. He looked up, smiled, and asked, "How was your interview?" Layla exhaled, bracing herself. It was intense. He spoke about losing everything in the conflict, then painting his way back to life. At one point, he stared at me and said, "Words are bridges, or they're walls. What will you build?" Marcus's eyes glazed over. Sounds like a powerful line. Maybe lead with that in your article? It'll grab readers. And with that, he returned to his email, fingers tapping. Layla's heart sank. She wanted him to understand the artist's soul, his fear, his courage, yet he boiled it down to a writing tip. Later, over dinner, the pattern repeated. Layla spoke of her story's emotional gravity. Marcus offered structural fixes. Layla listened to his work anecdotes and suggested he try mindfulness meditation to handle stress. He kindly nodded and said, "I'll think about it," but she could tell her words didn't land. A heavy silence settled between them that night. Layla stared at the ceiling, picturing the refugee artist on his tattered rooftop, shouting into the void, "Can you hear me?" She felt that same cry echoing in her chest. 3. The Catalyst. A week later, Marcus surprised Layla with tickets to a live performance of The Listening Project, a touring play exploring the power and pitfalls of communication. In the foyer, they joined a group of strangers invited to share personal stories after the show. Each participant would speak, and listeners could ask questions, but only to understand, not to advise or redirect. As the lights dimmed, the stage transformed into a living confessional. Actors enacted scenes of missed signals, a mother lecturing her son, a lover brushing away tears, friends shouting more to be heard than to hear. The final scene depicted 2 partners, hands outstretched, standing on opposite balconies, trying to close the gap, yet trapped by their words' weight. After the performance, the audience was led to small circles. Layla volunteered to speak first. She narrated her fracture with Marcus, her longing to be seen, her fear that their marriage was crumbling in silence. When she finished, the circle remained quiet for a heartbeat before one woman, her voice soft, asked, "What did you hope he'd say? Had he truly heard you?" Layla's throat tightened. She whispered, "I wanted him to say, 'I understand.' Tell me more." No solution. No quick fix. Just presence. Then Marcus spoke. Not to defend, but to confess. His voice wavered. "I never realized how much I layered my need to solve on top of your needs to share. I used advice as proof of love, but I see now it felt like dismissal." In that moment, their eyes met across the circle. Layla felt the walls between them breathe and shift. Marcus, for once, was listening, not to reply, but to understand. Learning the language. In the days that followed, Layla and Marcus embarked on an experiment, a week of listening practice. They set aside 30 minutes each morning, phone-free, in a quiet corner of their home. One would speak for 5 minutes about anything on their mind, while the other would listen, then reflect back, paraphrasing emotions, asking open-ended questions, and resisting the urge to fix. Day 1. Layla spoke about her frustration with a demanding editor. Marcus nodded, leaned forward, and said, "It sounds like you feel overwhelmed and underappreciated. What scares you most about this assignment?" He paused. "Is it that the story's importance is lost?" Layla blinked, surprised. She hadn't asked for solutions, but she felt heard. Tears pooled in her eyes as she explained. No interruptions. Day 2. Marcus confessed his stress over an upcoming merger pitch. Layla mirrored his words. "You're worried the client won't see your vision, and you fear losing autonomy in your role." She asked, "What outcome would make you feel proud?" Marcus exhaled deeply. "If they trust me enough to let me run this project." Layla didn't suggest meditation or slide layouts. She simply nodded. "Tell me what that trust would look like for you." Day 3. Layla talked about childhood memories, her grandfather teaching her to fish. Marcus listened, asked, "What did that day feel like?" and invited her to relive the moment. Layla saw him smile, leaning in as though the tale summoned something precious. She felt loved in a way she'd never quite before. By day 5, something shifted. They no longer needed the timer or the corner. Impromptu check-ins became part of their routine. Over morning coffee, Marcus would ask, "How did you sleep? Anything on your mind?" And Layla would ask, "How was your drive-in? Did anything surprise you?" Genuine curiosity replaced autopilot responses. The test. One stormy night, 2 months later, disaster struck. A pipe burst in their basement, flooding the laundry room and threatening the furnace. Marcus came home to Layla drenched in boots and sopping socks, her hair plastered to her face, phone held to her ear as she tried to reach a plumber. "Oh my God, look at this mess," she wailed. "I can't handle this alone." In the past, Marcus might have jumped into action. "Let me call someone, we can use the neighbor's dryer, don't worry, I've got it." But this time, he paused. He dashed upstairs, retrieved dry towels, and sat beside her amid the chaos. He looked into Layla's eyes and said, "This must feel overwhelming, like everything's spiraling at once." Layla blinked, surprised that he hadn't immediately taken charge. She nodded, voice tight. "I'm scared the water will ruin the whole house. I don't know what to do next." Marcus slid an arm around her shoulders. "I hear you. Let's figure this out together." And then, off to the side, he dialed the plumber, without saying, "I've got it," but rather, "Our basement is at risk, can you help?" He kept Layla involved. "Can you tell me exactly where the leak is? What's the water level?" She detailed the problem, he relayed it. They problem-solved together, as a team bound by listening and understanding. When the plumber arrived, the immediate crisis passed. Layla, wrapped in a blanket, hugging a mug of hot tea, looked at Marcus. "Thank you for not jumping in without me." Marcus smiled, wiping rain from his brow. "Thank you for letting me in." 6. Whispers and Reflections. A year after the burst pipe, Layla and Marcus still practice their listening ritual, though informally now, like breathing. On their first wedding anniversary after the listening project, they returned to the small theater where they'd first broken through their silence. This time, they sat hand in hand, absorbing every line of the new play, a story of two strangers who discovered that the most powerful medicine wasn't advice or action, but empathy and presence. As the final scene's lights dimmed, Marcus leaned toward Layla and whispered, "I love the way you tell your stories. I hear every color in your words." Layla looked at him, tears glistening. "I love the way you hold my fears. I feel every heartbeat in your silence." In the hush that followed, they understood that the space between words, those pregnant pauses, carried more love than any eloquent speech ever could. 7. The echo that lasts. Sometimes, when they sit together on the porch, Layla reads aloud from her articles, painting scenes with her voice. Marcus listens, a quiet smile tucking his lips, then asks, "What's the heartbeat behind this story?" And Layla tells him, the person behind the words, the emotion behind the facts. Other nights, Marcus recounts a tense board meeting or a breakthrough with a tough client. Layla listens, asks questions, and delves into his experience. She doesn't offer bullet points, she offers a mirror that reflects his passion and anxiety, so he can see himself truly. They've come to cherish these exchanges not because they fix every problem, but because they bridge the gaps that once yawned between them. They learned that to build a connection, you can no longer treat conversation as a battleground of points scored, solutions offered, or opinions asserted. Instead, each word becomes a stepping stone, and each pause, a place where hearts can meet. And in that meeting, in the shared space of listening to understand, they discovered a love more resonant than any echo of advice or rebuttal. End note. In every relationship, though the seasons shift and life's storms come, the greatest anchor is not in perfect words or grand gestures, but in the simple act of listening with intent. When we listen to understand, we open a door that no walls can close, and we give another soul the gift of truly being heard. Thank you for spending this time with us. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Don't Give Up. Let's continue exploring life's challenges and insights together.